Okay, everyone. Very exciting news. We are back with the final act, which is good for me and hopefully for you because, as much as you might think it is, sitting in your bedroom analysing Macbeth for like 3 hours isn't that fun. But it's alright. We've got one act left. It's Act 5. Once again, like in every video, we're going one act per video, and then we're going to go scene by scene in each video. And I'm going to look at key quotes and key context from each of the scenes to give you a good understanding of the play Macbeth. So, Act 5. What we've sort of said is throughout the play, the rate of scenes has gotten much quicker. So stuff goes bing, 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 way quicker. But in Act 5, in terms of the length of this whole thing, we do have 9 scenes to get through. However, some of them are all about one or two lines. So, I'm going to sort through them. We're going to go through, just in terms of the big ones to watch out for. Scene 1's quite big, Scene 3's quite big, Scene 5's quite big, and Scene 9 is quite big, but not big compared to some of the other ones we've had. But still, should be a great time, and let's get right into it with Act 5, Scene 1. So the context here is that the last time that we saw Lady Macbeth and Macbeth together was when the Banquo scene happened, when they saw the ghost and she decided to just belittle him and his manhood a lot. So that was the last time they were seen together. But then throughout the play, Lady Macbeth employed a lot of pathetic fallacy, and she calls on the knight to hide her, when she said, "Come thick night." She also said, "You lack the seasons of all nature, sleep," and then she says, "What's done is done." And she starts to replay the murders in her sleep, and it shows us the power that guilt can have. So what's really unfortunate is, she starts sleepwalking, and it's not super great because eventually she becomes not alive from that. So she says a lot of stuff in her sleep, basically, that hugely incriminate her, like hell is murky, and one that is awfully quite upsetting, which is where she almost sings the statement, "The Thane of Fife had a wife, where is she now?" And then she also says, a lot of times, she says, "Out damn spot." This is huge dramatic irony, one of the biggest acts of dramatic irony during the play, which is the fact that she feels as though she cannot get the blood out of her hands. She cannot get it out. And this is because she's now hallucinating to the fact that there's still blood on her hands. And it's dramatic irony because right back in Act 2, she said, "A little water clears us of this deed." Now, she can't get any of the blood out, even though there's not actually any blood there. She believes that, she can't get the blood out. And so what we see here is that Lady Macbeth is an incredibly tortured soul, and she shows us all of the consequences of the play that are beyond her will. So up next, we've got some key quotes from this scene. I touched on a few back then, but we've got some more as well. I've got 3 here, which are some nice ones. So we're going to start off with, who would have thought that that the old man to have so much blood in him, which is basically Lady Macbeth and how she's tortured by how much blood Duncan had in him before he was killed. She then says, "All of the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand." This is heavily hyperbole, but it's showing her olfactory imagery is showing how much how unnerved she is by the fact that she thinks that not every perfume in Arabia would be able to make her hand sweet again and to take away the blood. And then finally she says, "Foul whisperings are abroad, unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles." Again, a really nice quote that's like the one before, which said, "Blood will have blood." What was it? It was blood. Blood will have blood, they say. Blood will have blood or something. I don't know. It was, you can go back and watch the video. It's great. You can really see that I know the content very well. And so she's basically saying that people are talking about the Macbeths and the fact that they've done something very dodgy, either they've done it themselves or they've done regicide, which leads to strange consequences for them. And so that's pretty much what happens in Act 5, Scene 1. Lady Macbeth goes a bit mad. So that's what happens there. And so then we move on to Act 5, Scene 2. And so, we've got Act 5, Scene 2. So this is where all the lords meet together to discuss the fact that the English are coming. and they're going to come and attack. So we learn here that no one is very loyal to Macbeth, none of the lords, but they are just sort of more scared of him. And the quote is, "Those he commands move only in command," which means nobody does what he says because they like him. It's because they're really scared, which is probably fair enough for a guy who's gone and murdered a bunch of children. And that's pretty much all for Act 5, Scene 2. So then up next is Act 5, Scene 3. And so the context here is where a messenger is telling Macbeth about the army coming, the English army. And Macbeth is overly hubris here. Hubris is a word that means overconfident or arrogant. And the quote is, "The spirits that know the future have told me this," basically saying that he'll be safe. Macbeth also belittles the servant, calling him geese. The thing is, geese. The quote is geese villain. He's basically saying, because the servant says, "There's 10,000 coming, sir," and he says, 10,000 what? Geese. And it was... Macbeth will soon face the consequences to that. So Macbeth is resolved to the fact that he will die, though. As he says, "I have lived long enough. My way of life is fallen into the seer." Which basically he's decided, I'm gonna die. There's nothing I can do. That's just unfortunate. And so we now see Macbeth as a solitary figure, and the quote here that explains that is, and that which should accompany old age as honour, love, obedience, troops of friends, I must not look to have. Macbeth has realised that the whole reason why he decided to kill Duncan in the first place is so that he could have a good life on Earth, where he would be king, he would be respected, he would have lots of friends. But he's realised that he's actually got no mates, right? So he's realised that he's got no friends, nobody to love him, he's got no honour, everyone hates him, nobody's obedient to him, and it's all just a bit bad. And then finally, Macbeth wants the doctor that he hired to cure Lady Macbeth. He says, cure her of that. But the doctor says that only Lady Macbeth can cure herself. This is from her sleepwalking and all of her craziness, where he says, therein the patient must minister to himself. And so that ends Act 5, Scene 3. So as we saw, not that much happened there. But there was just a bit of back and forth between stuff. But Macbeth now knows that the English are coming and that he's in a bit of trouble, which takes us on to Act 5, Scene 4. So this is a really short scene, and all that we really need to know is this scene shows us where the English troops choose to use the woods for a disguise. So Macbeth, as we saw, failed to look beyond the fact and he failed to look beyond the literal meaning of what the witches had said, which is now going to come back to bite him when Great Birnam Wood will come to Dunsinane when they all hide themselves in the bushes. So, that was literally it for Act 5, Scene 4. We're now up to Act 5, Scene 5. So for Act 5, Scene 5, this scene encompasses one of the most famous Shakespearean soliloquies, definitely the most famous one in Macbeth, and it's quite a nice one. So I'll read through the whole thing because there's a lot of analysis that we can go through there. So firstly, with the context, Macbeth asks what the noise was after he heard a woman scream, and Macbeth actually responds with to this. He says, "I've almost forgot the taste of fears." He used to have been he would have used to have been not scared of that at all, but now he's just so paranoid and so scared, and he's also so desensitized to the idea of fear that he isn't scared anymore of what's going on. And then Macbeth is told that Lady Macbeth has died, which leads him to do the tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow soliloquy, which I will read and then I will run through. So the soliloquy goes, "She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." So that's quite depressing, to say the least, but we will go through it. So firstly, in the first line, we've got "she should have died hereafter." This is contested between people who are much smarter than me, who actually study Macbeth. And there are two meanings, pretty much. The first one is more one of them is more accepted. I think it's the second one. But the first one was she basically saying she would have died anyway. It doesn't really matter. And the second one, which I think is more accepted, is she should have died later so Macbeth could mourn. So then we hear tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, which is some repetition. And then it creeps in this petty pace. Creeps personifies time as going slowly and it's repetitive, and then day to day backs that up by basically saying everything just happens over and over and over again. And then also we hear to the last syllable of recorded time. And Macbeth realizes here that you can't reverse what has happened and you can't control time. We then hear, we can skip a couple of lines, and we hear that struts and frets. Struts is like walking with hubris, so it's like walking with walking with over the top amounts of confidence, but then, and frets. So frets is to stress. So it's sort of showing that throughout life there's ups and downs. His hour up on the stage, and then he's heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, and so basically, what this can sometimes be seen as, one of my mates in my class actually came up with this. He said that all people on earth are idiots as people stress about things when it's all meaningless in the end, because your life on earth is just a short bit of time compared to to everything that's eternal. And then we end up with signifying nothing. So there are a couple of lines in there that this couple of sentences that I wrote down the bottom explain. So Macbeth solemnly discusses the idea that life is completely meaningless. He knows now that everybody spends their time on earth and then dies and that's it. However, it is especially it for Macbeth because he chose eternal damnation in hell for being king on earth. He realises that he's basically got nothing else in life because he's A, going to die, and B, he's then going to be in hell. So it's not the best for him at the moment. He's not loving it. But anyway, we've had enough of Macbeth all being depressed, so we're going to skip straight forward to Act 5, Scene 7. I don't know what happened to Act 5, Scene 6. There probably wasn't anything important in there though. So Act 5, Scene 7. We've got the context here. This is a super short scene. So this is the scene where they start to attack. Macbeth kills a child.
Hey, would you look at that? It's everybody's favourite voiceover artist here. To make a quick point of clarification, Macbeth doesn't actually kill a child. He kills a character called Young Seward, who is basically just described as being a younger soldier in the English force. Macbeth did hire some murderers to kill some children earlier, but he was not actually going to kill a child himself now. Okay, back to me.
And says, thou wast born of woman, because he's basically saying you obviously aren't born of, you obviously were born of woman because I killed you, which pretty savage from Macbeth, but not exactly very nice. Act 5, Scene 8. This is the scene where Macbeth actually redeems himself. So a whole part of tragedies and the genre of tragedies is, in the end, the character who started good, turned evil, then at the end sort of redeem themselves to the audience a little bit. This is because Macbeth is still acting with hubris until Macduff tells him Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped. He basically says, I was not born of woman. Then Macbeth's like, oh no, we have a problem now because I've been told that those born of woman cannot harm me, but you weren't born of woman. Also, he was told that the great Birnam Wood would move to Dunsinane and then he would be in trouble. And so now both of those things have happened and he's like, oh dear. But where Macbeth redeems himself is by saying, I will fight you anyway. He basically says, I forgot what the quote is, but he said, yeah, I will still fight anyway, which is the honourable thing to do, which is where Macbeth brings himself back a little bit.
Sorry, it's me again. Just to clear up the point that this isn't actually like a huge redemption. He still like killed a bunch of people, including innocent children. And agreeing to fight somebody when he knows he's going to lose isn't that redeeming, but it is redeeming enough to classify itself as a redemption in this play. So yeah, back to me.
So now we've got Act 5, Scene 9. This is it. This is the final act. In terms of context, Macduff says, so Macbeth is then killed. And Macduff says, time is finally free. This is a reference to the fact that the natural order is now back to normal, and the fact that the whole time Macbeth has been trying to control time, and now Macduff says that because Macbeth's dead, time is finally free. Then the final monologue of this play is Malcolm when he's speaking, and this is basically the final catharsis where it explains that order is restored. Malcolm references time and says nothing needs to be rushed. They have plenty of time to return Scotland to normal. This is majorly contradictory to how Macbeth did things. And the lesson here that you're meant to hear from this soliloquy is that, and from this monologue, is that you shouldn't try and control time. You should just let it do what it wants to do. You shouldn't rush things. Things will happen if they will happen. So the final question that I'm going to look to answer, and then we're completely done, is what is the difference between Macbeth killing Duncan being regicide and Macduff killing Macbeth also being regicide? So the difference here is that we are positioned to see Macbeth as evil, which is why Macbeth killed a king, and that was bad because the old king was good, but Macduff killed a king, and that's good because the current king was bad. But we still do have some sympathy for Macbeth in the end, because the whole point of Macbeth is to be almost a figure of ourselves that is highly exaggerated, but we are meant to see ourselves in him. So the idea here in every tragedy is that the main character has a fatal flaw, which ends up leading to their demise. But the idea is that we all have flaws within us. They're just nowhere near as pronounced as that of in a tragedy. But we're meant to feel some sympathy, firstly because Macbeth did agree to fight in the end, which was his moment of nobility at the end of the play. And secondly, because we see ourselves in him. So that's all there is for the play Macbeth. I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope you learned a lot. I quite enjoyed making them. It wasn't too bad. Couple of hours work. I think I've been going for 4 hours at this point, but that's okay. It was good fun. So, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe. We've got more things coming out, especially because we have exams coming up, and so we're going over a load of different things for these exams. So, leave a like if you enjoyed. Thank you. Obviously, you don't have to. But yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.